Hey, what up YouTube? Welcome back to another video. This video is more or less like a part 2 slash follow-up video to the video that I did about Pusha T and Drake. And in this video, I'm going to concentrate on an aspect between, dark skin and light skin, particularly racial ambiguous light skin mixed biracial people, an aspect that I think goes over people's heads sometimes, all right? And an aspect that I also think low-key came up during, their whole back and forth, Drake and Pusha T's back and forth with each other, diss tracks, whatever you want to call it, all right? And that is dark-skinned black people questioning racial ambiguous, light-skinned, biracial, mixed people's loyalty to the black community. I think in this situation with Pusha T and Drake, I think that low-key was at play. I'm going to read off a few quotes. These are the same quotes that I read off in the previous video, but just in case you may have forgot or whatnot, I'm going to read these off again and elaborate, all right? So this quote is Drake explaining why he dressed up in blackface. All right. So quote unquote. Well, let's see. Drake felt compelled to respond to the photo, which he said was taken in 2007 for quote unquote a project that was about young black actors struggling to get roles, being stereotyped and typecast, right? So that explains, the whole, Drake in blackface, right? Which black people did find offensive, even though Drake is part black himself, people did find that offensive, understandably, of course, But I think part of the reason that is because this sort of came up too. It's like Drake doesn't really have a record of speaking on black issues prior to this. So it's like you haven't spoken on any black issues, and you have this photo of you floating around that's essentially mocking black people, particularly dark-skinned black people, right? So it's like, okay, so I can understand people feeling the need to question Drake about, not only about the photo, but just about, like, where do your loyalties lie? Are you really down for black people? You know, you get what I mean. You know? Are you just another user? Are you like a half black culture vulture? It's understandably, right? So Pusha T responded to Drake's response. All right, so Pusha T dismissed Drake's response, pointing to his lack of activism as he's become one of the biggest artists in the world. Quote unquote, "You are silent on all black issues, Drake," Pusha T said. "You don't stand for nothing. You don't say nothing about nothing. You have all the platform in the world. You were so passionate back then, question mark. No, you weren't. That's number one. That's what I know." These are his truths. Truths. See for yourself. And, that's the end of the quotes, all right? And I feel like this particular aspect, a dark-skinned person questioning a light-skinned, racially ambiguous person's loyalty sort of went over people's heads, But it does happen in day-to-day life. And, I think low-key, some, not all, but some dark-skinned people do take issues with light-skinned, racially ambiguous people who claim black identities, but it may not seem like they totally get the brunt of having a black identity, right? I think in this situation, Pusha T could possibly feel like Drake gets to jump in and out of blackness when convenient. He's only using blackness for his personal benefit, and he doesn't really have any attachment, like any love for blackness outside of what he can get from blackness. Like basically using blackness as a means to an end, and being able to benefit from blackness without having to deal with the downside and the struggle of being black, right? And I think that is at play low key with dark skinned people at times. Not all dark skinned people, all right? Not all, but some, right? Um, you know, and I'll speak a little bit about my personal experience with this a little bit. I put that in there. Okay. Usually, okay, I've been asked about like my race and ethnicity more times than I can count on my fingers and toes. All right, at this point, I'm using like facial hair to count. All right. I think in general, people tend to ask that question from one or two points of views. Both, from one point of view or the other point of view. Well, scratch that. For one reason or another reason. It's for two reasons. All right. Finally got that out. But for one of two reasons. Either they're just genuinely curious, especially, you see something that doesn't quite match up and something that's quite not quite familiar. Oftentimes you want to, learn about it a bit more, explore it, you know, depending on what it is, just educate yourself, I guess, satisfy your curiosity, right? So, from one reason, it's for curiosity, but for the other reason, it's like figuring out where you fall, right? Like, what side are you on? What side of the fence are you on? Where do your loyalties lie? Because you're asking someone about their race. And race is biological, of course, but it's also cultural and political, right? And because of that, it's like, okay, what, kind of like what side are you on? You know, where do your concerns lie? Who do you claim as your people? Who are you loyal to? Who do you go hard for? Hard in the paint for? Who do you ride for? Etc. Right? And in my personal experience, I feel like especially black people, I feel like oftentimes it comes from a place of curiosity, but also from a place of okay, kind of trying to figure you out. Like figure okay, we gotta you gotta know, you know. And understandably, considering what black people, especially like brown skinned, dark skinned black people have been through in this country, especially, and how, being, very, used and people coming in and out of the community just using black people for their own personal gain, like politicians and businesses and organizations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So it's understandable, right? It's understandable. So I don't think it comes from like a malicious place. It just comes from a cautious place, honestly. It's just like, hey, we gotta know what we gotta know. You don't look familiar. You don't look, you know, you kind of look familiar, but you know, you're not quite like me. Stranger danger. You know, you know. And I have been asked my race by a variety of people, but specifically speaking, concentrating on black people, or, I would say both male and females. Honestly, probably, probably if I counted it up, probably may have been more males asking me about my race. Um, Interesting. Um, and usually, like a few times they have been like lighter skinned people asking, but oftentimes it's like brown and dark skinned people, right? You know, and I do remember I remember probably I feel like middle school is when those questions started to come up. you know, I'm not quite sure why. Could have been curiosity, could have been figure out what side of the fence you're on. But I think middle school is when those questions started coming up. Elementary school, it was more so like, what do your parents look like? But well, from elementary school, that was what it was. But middle school, it was like, so, like what race are you? You know. And I have been like in situations where it just seemed like a whole crowd of people kind of like gather around and asking questions. That's happened probably at least twice in my life. But I don't mean to just go on and on about myself and make it all about me. But I feel like this experience, I kind of it relates to this video, so I want to add it. But I will say, there was a time when I was working at this particular company, um, and the black people who worked at the company were pretty much like dark skinned, brown skinned black people, right? And this one guy, dark skinned dude, he was actually, I believe, part Cuban. His hair texture looked a little, different from what I would expect a dark skinned black man to have in terms of hair texture. I believe his mom was Cuban, but his look, he looked, black. If you saw him walking down the street, like dark skinned black man, right? you know, but yeah, I noticed that, for one, race question. Okay, that's not really a big thing or anything, but there was this white coworker um, who worked there or who came on board, and I noticed that he tended to like make sure that the white person knew that I was black. He made for because I think somehow like a race question about me came up or something, and he kind of was like he's black or something like, um, you know. And I found that it's a little odd. I mean, it's good to be claimed, but I'm just saying. you know. But I think in that situation, what could have been at play was maybe he didn't want me to receive the non-black treatment, but rather the black treatment from the white coworker, which I think is at play sometimes with when it comes to these type of situations, right? It's like, hey, if you claiming black, you need to be treated like you black, right? Because that's what it was. Ultimately, that's what it centers back to: how you are treated and how well, it centers back to dark skinned people low key feeling some type of a way about maybe feeling like some light skinned people may not receive the brunt of blackness as strong of the brunt of blackness, right? And make them low key feeling some type of a way about that because it's like, hey, you get the benefit from blackness, but you don't seem to receive the full brunt of blackness, which some people may not find to be fair. And honestly, that is true. But we know that, light skinned, racially ambiguous folks got their own struggles to go through, of course. And to be fair, I have actually felt this way about, say, white passing black people. And also just white passing people of color who claim the identity of a person of color. And by the way, I don't have anything against white passing black people. You know, I had them in my family, you know, and as well, my father is actually one of those people. All right. So, okay. No hate, I ain't got no hate. I'm just saying though, you know. But yeah, like sometimes I've kind of felt some type of way about that, you know, in the past. Not so much now though. In the past though, particularly before I was, quote unquote woke, you know. But yeah, I felt that way. It's kind of like because if they're claiming a black identity, it's like they don't really like. Cause me, like I'm claiming a black identity, but I'm getting the brunt of blackness, and I can, it's so if I'm feeling this way, then I'm guessing that the darker skinned folks are feeling this way. Again, I'm pretty sure no one's going to want to admit it, but I'm just keeping it real with you. Like I always try to do with you guys, keep it real, not, feeding you no bullshit or anything like that. You know? So I think it's kind of like, to an extent, darker skinned people maybe even like when I think maybe some lighter skinned people may sometimes feel the need to like do something to, assert their blackness or um, show that they're, I guess down or whatever. So sometimes you may see some people taking on like the black activism route or, starting some type of black organization or heading some black organization. Something that kind of sends the message that this is how I identify, this is where my loyalties lie, these are the people who I ride for, these are people who I go hard in the paint for, etc. You know. But to bring it back to Pusha T and Drake, I feel like that could have low-key been at play, as well as other things too, of course. But I think part of that, part of what was at play in Pusha T's animosity may have been this whole situation I'm talking about, you know, because notice like he he jumped on that like because I think this is something that he may have wanted to say, but Drake finally gave him the opportunity to say it, right? Because if he just came out and said it, it would be a bit odd. But he had to have the opportunity to say it, right? He had to have the opportunity to say, quote unquote, you're silent on all black issues, Drake. You don't stand for nothing. You don't say nothing about nothing. You have all the platform in the world. You weren't so passionate back then, question mark. No, you weren't. That's number one. That's what we know. These are his truths. See for yourself. If he just came out and said that without any type of like, you know, lead in or, something to respond to, like if he just said that out of the blue, he it wouldn't come off. It would come off a bit odd, you know. But I pick up on some things. I pick up on some things. A few things I pick up on. You know. But I'm going to bring this video to a close. I didn't mean to go on for this long, but sometimes when you get going, you just gotta keep going and going and going until you reach the end. But I do want to put the question out there, especially to the darker skinned folks, both male and female, who happen to watch me, and also just black folks in general, but especially dark skinned black males and females, though. Have you ever felt this way? We can be honest. We gotta have honesty if we gonna get through. If we gonna really deal with issues, we gotta be able to be honest. We may not like what the truth is, but we can't be afraid to tell the truth, and we also can't be mad at people for telling the truth. Again, we can be mad at what the truth is, but don't be mad at someone for telling you the truth. There's a difference. And I feel like some dark skinned people may honestly just be like, "Oh, I never really had that idea," you know. And then some folks may say different, but let me know what you're saying. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments section. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now. Take care.